Ladies and gentlemen, day 215 of Ukraine's resistance. This is Mediacentre Ukraine. My name is Vasily Samokhvalov. We're starting our briefing. We're going to start with, we have particularly interesting guests today. We have Věra Jourová, Vice President of the European Commission on Transparency and Values, as well as Oleksandr Tkachenko, Ukraine's Minister for Culture and Informational Policy, and Andriy Sadovy, Mayor of Lviv. We'll start with Oleksandr Tkachenko. Pane Oleksandr, please come to the floor. And first question, what were you discussing with our guest today? Hello, we're happy to welcome, along with the mayor, a very welcome guest, Věra Jourová, a true friend of Ukraine, a friend to such an extent that we periodically have conversations late at night. Today we were discussing questions pertaining to further sanctions against Russian television channels in the European Union. The first step has been made. These are sanctions against Russia today, and subsequently, after this, there will be Russia 24 and Russia channel. They were broadcasting on the Eutelsat satellite, but we're talking about further steps, next steps. We're talking about the first channel, NTV, REN-TV, and other propaganda channels that do not belong in a civilized world. I'm very grateful to Pani Věra for her support in this question, and I'm sure she will tell about her impressions herself of this visit in Lviv. Pani Věra, the floor is yours. Yes, please. I have a question as to what will you be taking back home or back to Brussels with? What will you be taking back?
Ladies and gentlemen, paní ta panové, šanovní žurnalisti, I wanted to come here to have authentic feeling and new inspiration for my work. As you know, I work in the field of values, democracy, rule of law, but also media and supporting media in their very important job, which is so extremely important, especially here in Ukraine. These are my topics, and that's why it was important for me to come here. I spoke to the students at Catholic University, also with the rector. It was a strong moment for me because when I saw the young faces, the people whose task will be to renew Ukraine after the war, which must come soon, and nobody hesitates about the result of the war. Ukrainians will win. And I saw the young faces, the people who are ready to do that. It was really very, very touching and impressive moment. Also, I was in the hospital, Nezlomna, and it is nezlomna. I saw the dedication of people working with those and for those who were injured, whose bodies but also souls were injured in the horrible war situations. And I spoke to some patients. I spoke to 2 children who were injured. One of them lost his mother. And I can tell you, I think that everybody should see this horrible human tragedy. And at such moment you realize that Putin's Russia does not value human lives at all and needs the lecture of humanity. Unfortunately, this lecture of humanity cannot be done without weapons. That's why I also came here to reassure everybody that the European Union as a whole and the member states of European Union are fully ready to continue the support of Ukraine in your heroic fight. It was clearly announced by the president of the commission, my boss, who said clearly no sanctions will be lifted and more support will be delivered. So I think that the message is clear, and I'm glad that I can confirm it today. I came here also to listen to the journalists working in the field, in the battlefield, because we are supporting the journalists working in Europe also by the financial support. The center that I have just visited with the minister is receiving support from the Commission amounting to 1.5 million euro to help journalists, provide them with protective equipment and assistance, because those journalists are our eyes and ears. We desperately need them to do the job. And as we discussed before, we need them to keep the attention of European people, because more and more the news from Ukraine are being replaced by other news. This is not a good thing. We need to get the to know the truth about this war. So my message to Ukrainian people today is the following. The European Union is with you, and your place is with us. Європейський Союз з вами, з Україною, а місце України в Європейському Союзі. And I think that this is the message which will live with us a lot of years.
Thanks a
because
lot.
I personally am very strong support of the membership of Ukraine in European Union. Thank you.
В мене є пропозиція, що спочатку ми
I have a suggestion that perhaps we will give the floor to the mayor, and then we'll switch to the questions and answers. Will that be agreeable? Okay, Mayor, please. Madam Deputy Eurocommissioner, dear citizens, today we visited Nezlamny Unbroken Rehabilitation Center, and Madam Deputy Eurocommissioner spoke with our wounded, with our children, with our adults, and it's important to understand that the enemy uses not only weapons, not only the physical damage brought by arms, but also information weapons, and so, which is why it's so important to block the dissemination of these untruths, of this poison of untruth that is spreading to numerous media. And here we have full cooperation. We also discussed the presentation of Lviv as a Ukrainian city that is fighting for the right to host the capital of European youth in 2025. To host a Ukrainian concert in Brussels, so that the world can see our Nezlamny, our unbroken people. Because often we have heard conversations about gas prices and oil prices. My friends, the future of Europe and indeed of the world is being decided right now. Will we be democracies, or will we be squished by totalitarianism? Today, Ukrainians are fighting for everyone, for every citizen of the free world, which is why I am very grateful to Madam Deputy Eurocommissioner for her courage in coming to Lviv today, to be with us and to support us. This is important today, and it's also important for tomorrow, for the tomorrow of our Ukraine, because it is only together that we will succeed. Ukraine as a full member of the EU, that is the ultimate full stop that we have to set on this question. We have time for 2 or 3 questions. If we have questions, please raise your hands, because we are extremely tight schedule. Yes, I have a question for Madam Vice President about this financial support. Will it cover only these so-called oligarch channels, or this joint marathon, or for instance, will independent media be able to count on support or assistance? And if so, then what should be done? What should we do to that end?
Journalists from our budget with using the several channels, so that the money gets to those who need it. So I don't have the details now, who is the receiver, who are all the media receiving, but I also came here to understand better how the distribution is going on and whether it goes to where it's needed. We discussed it before. The journalists in Ukraine work in exceptional war situation, and this is where's the difference between the journalists working in EU member states and in Ukraine. But the rest is very similar, because also in European Union member states, the media are under extreme economic pressure, and they suffer from the lack of financing. And we are also trying to find the ways for the European media, how to keep them survive, especially the regional and local ones. But I cannot give you now the concrete answer where the money goes, but I am here to collect more information about that.
Чи є ще питання? Прошу.
Are there more questions? Yes, please introduce yourself. Христина Гашенко, I'm подробиці Інтер. Could you tell us a bit more about the new sanctions against the Russian channels? Will it be that they will be banned in the territory of Europe, or some more specific things? Thank you.
Already did two things in the EU when it comes to Russian interference through the disinformation. We notified the sanctions which were introduced by the Baltic Sea countries. It was already some time ago, because their TV channels were owned by the people on the sanction list. And then we took unprecedented step by sanctioning Russia Today, Sputnik, and 3 more recently in the 6th sanction package. It was heavily criticized because we were seen as those who are censoring, those who are banning the media. This is not truth. We are temporarily sanctioning the media, so-called media, which just became the Putin's war weapons. And we cannot be naive anymore. So that's why we took this unprecedented step. Now, coming to your question, we are working on the 7th sanction list. We are working on several different topics. I will not surprise you, maybe new persons on the sanction list, maybe some decision regarding the energy sources, probably something regarding imported goods. But also we will look into the situation of media. And here, my today's meeting with Oleksandr Tkachenko is extremely important, because he gave me his seeing of the situation, who is the spreader of the toxic lies and who should appear on the sanction list as well. I take this very seriously. We asked for more detailed information, and we are now, as we speak, working on this 7th sanction list, and I will look into whether we can go further in this field of media, so-called media. I have to say we have this reservation whether it's media or not.
І маю ще, може, останнє питання. Це питання буде від мене, воно буде...
I have a final question, a question from me. It's not about Ukraine, it's about Europe. Russia is talking to Europe also through the language of propaganda and the language of intimidation. First, they intimidated through high energy prices. Later, they intimidated through a cold winter. Now, they're threatening with a nuclear threat. To what extent has Europe learned to oppose Russia's propaganda?
I had to do more to become more resilient. And that's why we introduced some measures, especially when it comes to digital space. So we introduced the legislation which should make the digital platforms more responsible, so that they cannot be used as distributors of mass lying produced in Moscow or Petersburg or somewhere else. And also we created a system which we call Code of Practice Against Disinformation, where we invite also the advertising industry, because we don't believe that we should let those who spread disinformation and produce disinformation get the money from this activity. We want to starve them out. In fact, this is about financial sources. And we are also inviting professional journalists to do more fact-checking and more of trustworthy journalism, so that the people can make the choice. Here comes the population, here come the Europeans, who should not believe everything they read. I was born in communist Czechoslovakia, and my father always was telling me, do not believe anything you read in the newspaper. Our advice today is, do not believe everything. So that's a slight different, but
Дякуємо дуже.
Last word to react on what the mayor said about possible cultural event in Brussels. I still remember a lot of songs in Russian language. I was forced to learn them when I was a child. High time I learn some Ukrainian songs. I promise. Thank you.
Sounds like a plan. Окей, ми будемо закінчувати.
Thank you. We're going to wrap up. Our next briefing will take place at 2:15. We are very grateful